All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Derrick James, the trainer of Errol Spence Jr., was asked if he believes that he will get Trainer of the Year, and he says that they will find a way not to give it to him, but to give it to somebody like Eddy Reynoso and his teeny bopper, Ryan Garcia. It was all fun and jokes, but seriously, Derrick James is the trainer of the year. Errol Spence Jr. is the fighter of the year. How much do you want to bet that they do not get those awards? But let's discuss that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So this is a video where I'm going to talk about something that Derrick James talked about on a podcast for the PBC. It was the Premier Boxing Champions podcast. And he had said this before, but since he said it again, I was like, yeah, we're heading towards the end of the year and people are going to start talking about what the awards should be. So I cannot wait in this very odd year of boxing to see how the usual suspects find a way not to give certain type of fighters, at least that's my opinion, the credit that they're due, or trainers. So in this case, we have Errol Spence Jr. and Derrick James, and two of the awards that are given out by the Boxing Writers Association of America, right? That's an organization that I think is fair to say is the most respected, or whose awards are referred to the most often, right? But they have a funny way of seeing the world, and it is similar to the way that the ESPN pound for pound people that vote on that act, the way that the people the way that the people who write for Ring and vote there, put their pound for pound list together. Strangely enough, they act very similar to one another. Now, the obvious reason for that is that the same people that write for the that are on the Boxing Writers Association of America, or members of the Boxing Writers Association of America that get the votes, are also the same people that work for the Yahoo Sports, like Kevin Iole, or I don't know where Steve Kim and Dan Rafael are right now. Maybe Boxing Scene? Yeah, probably Boxing Scene or something like that. But you get my point. Nobody like me, not people who are primarily on YouTube channels, but the Boxing Writers Association of America. So Derrick James was asked, do you think that you'll get Trainer of the Year this year? This question should be straight up, no doubt about it, who should win this, right? Because Derrick James, in a year where there's not been a lot of fights, right? Not been a lot of big fights. Derrick James has a terrific year with two fighters. One, Jermell Charlo, who holds 3 belts, who unified 3 belts at the 154-pound division, right? And but unfortunately, we got these same people that are voting on these awards for the Boxing Writers Association of America are the same people that keep Jermell Charlo off a pound for pound list, and Gervonta Davis off a pound for pound list, and Gary Russell Jr. off a pound for pound list, while putting a bunch of people that whole bunch of American boxing fans have never seen, never heard of, including the people voting for him sometimes. Because, dude, there ain't no way you watching these guys fight at 2:30 in the morning over on Japanese TV when it doesn't get shown here. But I'll leave that alone. Those are the type of people. So Derrick James says that he doesn't think that he's going to get he said, I don't think they're going to find a way to give it to somebody else. And then he talked about how he had a very good case for winning it several other years, right? But see, if you recall, there was a award that was going to be it's like you just have to believe that this year because they have no choice whatsoever in trainer of the year and really no choice whatsoever in fighter of the year, you would think that would mean that they would be giving it to those guys. But I just have to tell you, I'm telling you, like Monster Inoue is going to get it. Eddy Reynoso is going to get it. Kind of like when there was, when Manny Pacquiao was around and it didn't matter what anybody else did in boxing, as long as Manny Pacquiao had a fight, Freddie Roach was going to win the award. It's kind of like that, getting to be that way with Eddy Reynoso. And it's not like Eddy Reynoso is not somebody that would be deserving of the award if, say, Canelo Alvarez actually had a fight, right? But now Canelo Alvarez is going to fight next week, right? And this is where I'm saying, like, right now, Derrick James has Errol Spence Jr., who came back from a car accident, right? A guy that he built from the ground up, overcame a huge car accident, should be like comeback story of the year or comeback fighter of the year for sure, right? Errol should probably be both comeback fighter of the year, if they have that award, and fighter of the year for what he did and the excellent level of competition that he fought in this very, kind of crazy time in boxing. But Derrick James was just very straightforward. He's like, they'll find a way to give it to they'll find a way to give it to somebody else. And you guys just kind of have to, expect that, man. And it's kind of sad, but it is what it is. It seems as if certain people have to do 3 times as much in order to get the same accolades, right? Like, people say that, Black American fighters are no longer dominant fighters. They say it's the Eastern European fighters. But then if you look at the total numbers of Eastern European fighters that have belts, I think right now it may be 1, right? I think it's Arthur Beterbiev. But you look at the number of Black American fighters that have belts, and it could be like 13, 14, right? But for some reason, they're 13, 14, or America's 17, 16, 17 aren't as worth as much as at the time the Ukraine's 2 or 3 belts that they had at most. Because at one point in time, the Ukraine had 3 champions. They had Wojciech, they had Lomachenko, and they had Usyk. At this point in time, none of those guys have championships. But I don't hear anybody saying that Eastern European boxing is dead because none of those guys have championships. But, it's really hard to grow American boxing when the boxing writers and the people that are around are so and that are Americans, by the way, are so hesitant to reward and recognize people in the United States, man. I was hearing something that Teddy Atlas was talking about and I'm not going to get too much into it because it's for the next video, but Teddy Atlas was saying something with Mark Rideout on his show, and they were talking about who the biggest stars were, and they were like, Canelo Alvarez has a whole country behind him, and Anthony Joshua has a whole country behind them, and I'm like, really? If they have a whole country behind them, why do they only have like 1.5? Why don't they have like 1.2 and 1.3 million pay-per-view buys? If a whole country is behind them, those guys got there's 70 million people in the UK. They cannot possibly all be with Anthony Joshua, or Anthony Joshua would have 10, 15 million pay-per-view buys. Same thing for Canelo. If all of Mexico was behind Canelo, then Canelo wouldn't be fighting in Dallas, Texas, and he wouldn't be fighting on DAZN. And he dang sure wouldn't just have 1.2 million or barely 1 million or a little over a million pay-per-view buys. It's just an exaggeration and a way to frame it and to make it look like American fighters are, because they don't want to sell them, are not really the best. And I'm telling you, at least from what I can see, Derrick James this year is without a doubt the trainer of the year, and Errol Spence Jr. to be fighter of the year. That's my take. You let me know what you think. And with that, I'm out. Peace.